Hello, everybody. This is Reverend Sue Frederick. I am a Unity Minister, Master Numerologist, and author of several books, including the Angel Up book series and the newly revised Sacred Numerology workbook. However, today we are having a mystical conversation, the kind where we lose ourselves in the wonders of divine mysteries, share dreams from the other side, intuitive nudgings, and soul mission yearnings. Our guest today for this amazing mystical conversation is my dearest friend, Amber Briscoe, a writer and filmmaker whose work explores grief, after death communication, and the enduring bond between parents and children. After the passing of her beautiful son, Jagger, she authored a book called Signs 101. I have it with me today. It's a gorgeous book, a gentle guide for parents connecting with children across the veil. And she created the documentary project called Tragic to Magic, which weaves personal storytelling with spiritual insight. She will be a guest with Helping Parents Heal alongside fellow moms on January 13th, and Extra, the nationally syndicated news program, will be airing a story on her new documentary in mid-January. So I want to welcome my beautiful friend Amber, and also to tell everybody that we're going to spend a minute talking about her book, and then our topic today is how numerology affects us and what it's all about and what 2026 holds in store. So first, let me just brag on this new book that Amber has published, because when Jagger crossed to the heavenly realms, people sent her tons of books, right, Amber? And it
Yeah.
was just so overwhelming to try to get into that deep, dense content. And she said, what moms really need is a very user-friendly, like, here's how to carry on, and also here's how to start your conversation with your child in spirit. And it is so practical, so user-friendly. It tells you exactly how to recognize a sign, how to ask for a sign, has so many deep, insightful comments, and it's something that a grieving parent can take and digest, keep by the bedside. Thank you, Amber. It is so well done.
Thank you. I know that we are going to be covering a lot of material today, so I just want to thank you for asking me to participate. You have been such a guide and a teacher to me, and I appreciate any chance I get to continue learning from you.
Well, you're my favorite person in the world, and Jagger is my favorite person in spirit. And today you get to run the interview and take it where you like. Go for it, Amber.
Okay, I wanted to ask, how did you first realize that numbers were not just random, that they each carried an energy and guidance?
It really wasn't until Paul died in 1980 and I was lost, and a friend gifted me with a session with a numerologist. I had heard and studied astrology, but I really hadn't heard about numerology. This was the 70s. This was before people were talking about angel numbers. It was very, no internet, all that sort of thing. Dark ages, we could call it. And so numerology just first came to me a month after Paul crossed, when I got that reading. And she blew my mind in 1 hour and taught me so much, and, left me the charts to look at and study. And I created my own numerology workbook and started figuring out, well, gee, if my sister is on this path, how has that played out in her life? And kind of going on my own research journey to understand the numbers.
And I know that you just updated that numerology workbook. What prompted that? And what was sort of the number one thing that people reached out and said, but I still want to know this or
Yeah.
that?
Well, when I first put it out, I wasn't thinking about people picking it up who had never heard anything about numerology because I was calling it a workbook. It is a workbook, and I figured people just want to really understand the formulas. How do I calculate this and that? What does that mean in a simple way? And anybody who took my classes loved it. Anybody who heard me talk loved it. But it wasn't enough for the newcomer to numerology. It also didn't have my spiritual slant on the numbers explained nearly well enough. And in today's world, we can go to AI or Google and find out anything we want to know about how to calculate the formulas and what they mean in numerology. But what I'm teaching in my particular brand that I call Sacred Numerology is that our souls choose these birth paths. They're not random. We aren't assigned a birth path, and none of them are good or bad or better or worse. And when we look at numbers through the soul's view, now you're doing it my sacred numerology way. And it's very empowering. In other words, I've heard other numerologists say things like, oh, you're on the eight path, that's bad luck or something. And I'm like, what are you talking about? That soul picked exactly that path to help them grow and evolve in just the way they needed to. And my new workbook explains all of that spiritual perspective.
So I know that you say that there's no negatives to the numbers, but as a global, we're coming off of a 9 year, and so many people have like suffered this year.
Yes.
Like, how can you still say there's
I
no bad
know, I
numbers?
know. That's a really, really good question. All of us hate letting go. It's a natural human desire to want to feel we have control. And so when a nine personal year or a nine universal year comes along, the divine order of the universe is going, break it down, let it go, because something new and better is coming. But the universe won't really show you that until you start the new cycle. I always compare it to being out in your garden and you're planting, new seeds and everything, and then the harvest happens. That's the 9 year, the harvest, and you're benefiting from everything you've learned and grown in that 9 year. And then you have to kind of dig out all of that stuff so that next spring you can plant the new. Now, when you're digging out that garden, you're not going to really know how things will grow next year. And that's the mystery of this universe. We aren't really allowed to know certain things because we're here to learn to open our hearts, trust, and move forward courageously. Boy, those words just trigger so many humans. Like, I want to know what's coming. I want to know I'm in control. Well, this nine universal year we just came through just broke everybody open because it was nothing that anybody wanted or expected to happen. And it caused so much turmoil, so much conflict. And now we're in that one new beginning. And birth is not easy either. Nothing here is really easy, but it's all perfect for our evolution.
So, what does this new beginning energy of 2026 mean for us, mean for humanity?
Well, I want to say it's our chance to make the world better, and it is, but it's also going to depend on everyone here using their free will to step up to their higher self, carry their light in spite of the darkness. This is a free will and destiny universe, and this is another way that my numerology is different. I don't believe we come in a destined way that we can't affect. Everything here is an interplay of our energy and the destined path we've come to experience. So, for example, you and me, Amber, you picked the 11 Master Soul, I picked the 22. That doesn't mean it was a done deal that we were going to accomplish that great work that those two paths want us to accomplish. It meant that at every painful moment, we would have a turning point, a juncture, a choice point where we could either wallow in our pain or step up and say, I'm going to try to look for the light. I'm going to try to move forward courageously. You have certainly done that with the crossing of your beautiful son, Jagger. I did it with Paul and Chrissy dying back in 1980. I had to say, okay, I'm going to find a meaning. I'm going to find a reason. That openness gets us on our path. Same thing with the world, the universal year. This year, we're being called, all of us, to say, I'm going to hold that vision of the world of compassion and kindness and goodness and generosity in spite of the crazy things I see happening. And I won't go into my negative self because I know my light will help lead the way forward into that new world. This is a hard call for us collectively because there's so much anger, there's so much conflict. But people like you and me, the more we can teach these things and talk about shining our light, the more we're helping humanity step up to that call to action.
And I think for some of us, it takes tragedy to get there, to break
Me
us open,
too.
to really see. And I just want to put out a shout for your soul path calculator on your website, SueFrederick.com, correct?
Yes.
And I use it so often. And I
Oh.
want to say too that like you can, so you input your date of birth, and correct me if I have this wrong, and then it will calculate for you the three different ways to add up your soul path and what personal year you're in.
Yes.
But there's a little hidden thing. If you go down and you hit level 2,
Yes.
you can get to your
Pinnacles.
pinnacles,
Yes.
and which are sort of like the areas of study
Right.
of your life broken
Right.
into four sections. And then if you hit level 3,
Yes.
you can get to like your soul's urge and your
That's
ascended
right.
vibration. Do you want to
Yeah.
just talk about that briefly, and then
Yeah,
we'll.
it's a lot of information, and I chose to have it that the person who doesn't know a lot about me or numerology will probably just stop at the first page. And that's okay because if you just digest your soul path, your birth path, your personal year, what that means, then you're off to a great start. Now study that for a few months. And then when you're ready, come back and start learning about the pinnacles and take that in as your overarching lesson that your soul is trying to grasp. And then when you've really got that kind of under your belt, come back and study your name number. The name number is the most complex because people have different names. They're born with one name and then they get married and change it. And so they sort of always come to me with these questions like which name is true, etc. And my answer to that is you need to calculate both. You need to put both of them into that calculator and see which carries a better vibration for you. And only you can answer that. Only you can know that. And the name that I was born with did not have, I mean, it marked my true nature and what I'd come to do and learn, but it revealed to the world how intent I was on learning and growing, all my missing numbers that I was going to have to master. I felt like I was walking through life like Swiss cheese with holes all over me, trying to fill them in. And once I married Paul and took his last name, I felt more solid. It didn't change my trajectory, but it did help the world see me as a more solid, grounded person, which I've become in my 70 something years. But back early on, I was so uncomfortable here on earth, struggling so much to find my way, as many souls are. But the other thing I wanted to come back to is you mentioned my three ways of adding the birth date. I can't tell you how many times clients and even friends reach out to me and say, but according to so and so numerologist, I only have to add my birth date one way. And gee, I'm not on the master soul path of 11 or 22. And I'm so tired of answering that question. So I hope the whole world hears this moment of me explaining it. Pythagoras said that the numbers let us know what we're ready to learn about our journeys. What if each of us come here with such a complex path that we're here to accomplish? And the easy brain says, add it one way, you got all the information. Well, when I started that way, I'd go, this person is definitely an 11, not just a 2, or this person is definitely a 22, not just a 4, or a 33, not just a 6. And then I would add it the three different ways, and I'd realize you got to get the whole picture. The only way you get it is by adding it three different ways. And my calculator does that for you.
And I feel like, for some people, if it's only one way, it kind of, in my experience, when I've like read for people, it kind of indicates that they're going to get there later in their life.
Yeah, yeah.
I also had a question. You said just a 4. Like I read for somebody who she's like, oh, I'm not a master number. She felt let down.
Yeah, I
Like,
understand what you mean. But let me explain that. Oh my gosh, there are so many times I wish I had just been a 4. Because a 4 is so strong and so hardworking and responsible and competent, and the world is their playground. They can be an athlete and be incredibly strong and competent and successful. They can be a computer programmer, and they're not going to have this sense of unrest. If there's one word that describes an 11, a 22, a 33 soul, it is unrest with the ordinary, constantly feeling pushed by the soul. Wait, I need to know more. I need to understand more. I need to do more. I need to, like you and Jagger, when Jagger crossed, you could have said, you know what, I'm just going to buckle down and maybe go live on a beach in Mexico or something. But your soul kept saying, come on, there's more to understand, there's more to learn. And look at you, you've got a book and a documentary coming out. That's very 11 Master Soul. And for me, with all the books I've written, it's not because I sat around going, I wonder what I should do. Instead, it was this extraordinary compulsion of the soul to get information mastered myself and then share it with the world. That is the push of the master soul path.
so talk about how our life path and our soul urge numbers get us to reconnect with what our soul is guiding us to do, our identity.
Yeah, I found it to be the most hopeful and helpful thing is that people usually come to me first when everything's falling apart. Like when you first came to me, you were losing a job, remember?
Oh
And
yeah.
and it felt like the end of a career. And when I then sit down and explain, well, here's the birth path you chose, here's what it means, and you're in a 9 ending year, you're in a personal year of the 9, and I explain the whole picture because these numbers outline your soul plan. And when I can explain that to somebody, they go, oh, you mean there's something new and better coming, and you mean I didn't do anything wrong to lose that career? Yes, that's what I mean. And yes, I'm telling you, you've got something bigger and better in your path waiting for you to step up to it. It becomes the hope for people who are really lost. I remember when my first book, I See Your Dream Job, came out. It was back in 2008 when, Wall Street had the big crash, and just there were so many people had lost everything, including careers. And they found me. That's why the New York Times did an article about my work, and they were hopeless in such despair. And I could say, no, this is all part of the plan. And here's your path. This is what you came to experience. You're going to find a way to manifest this now because what is meant to be let go of is gone. So now you get to start this new journey. And it really, really helps people.
I feel like we're entering another one of those spaces where people
Yeah,
are just, there has to be more than
yes,
this,
I
right?
agree. 100%.
Um, let's talk about free will and how the interplay of free will and, but this is my life path. Isn't this my fate?
So that's such a good question. Boy, I have watched and observed. Once you know about the numbers, you can't even watch a football game without going in and figuring out, like I know all the
You can't watch
quarterbacks.
a football game.
Yeah. I know all the quarterbacks in the NFL and their birth paths and their personal years. And that's what makes life so fascinating is you realize, oh wow, this is their soul path to do such and such, and look how they're manifesting it. So I look at everything that way. And and when you do, you see the free will at play. So for example, somebody that I grew up very close to was on the 11 birth path and had that soul intention, but she was born in the 30s, 1930s. And women born in the 1930s were pretty much in survival mode, and she was definitely in survival mode growing up. So that kept her into the two, the single digit of the 11 path. Two is all about order and details and control and not looking up at that bigger picture. And that's how she ran her life. Like she controlled her family, her house, everything in a sort of fear-based way. But every now and then you'd hear that higher spark in her voice, that loving consciousness within her. And it was so amazing because she could go from that right back down to the negative, fearful part of herself. And she lived in this earth world for 98 years. And when she crossed was really the final weeks of her life here that I saw her finally embracing that higher 11 energy by speaking from her soul, not her personality, and saying, I love you, and having a whole different perspective. That's her stepping up from negative self, free will, angry at the world, stubborn to, I am here to enlighten, inspire, help, and heal. And it took her 98 years, but she got there in the last days. That's all that matters, that we get there at some point.
Do you want to speak about how a Master Soul 11, 22, or 33, how that energy interacts with a one universal year?
Yeah, it's actually good because when you have that compulsion of the 11, the 22 to 33, I got to get it done. I got to do something important. And then you come to a one universal energy that goes, yeah, we got to be reborn. You are on fire, so to speak. And I know that you might not be feeling it yet, Amber, because it's just now getting going. But as soon as your extra TV show is out in the world and things are happening, it's like we are going to use this new beginning, this new cycle to come out of the gate, going as fast as we can with all the books we've already done, with the books we're about to do, and teaching and speaking, because our soul knows that this is a new opportunity to get the word out. So it's going to be a very intense but productive new year for 11s, 22s, and 33s.
And let's talk about the pinnacles. How do those come in and kind of help us navigate the change in this new beginning year for everyone?
Well, that arc of learning from the pinnacle will never change. In other words, even though this is a great new rebirth year, I'm still under the seven pinnacle, which means spiritual reflection, studying it, trying to understand it from the soul. So that's still going to be, I will be mostly home, working from home, the seven energy of retreat and quiet. And even though the world is in a rebirth phase, I'll be doing that from home. I'll be in my more reflective, meditative, writing, working with clients, quiet way of navigating all that because my pinnacle does give me that overarching lesson and energy of what I'm here to learn.
Do you want to talk a little bit about how your personal year works with the universal year?
Yeah. So that's fun because we just taught, or I just taught a numerology class a few days ago, and people were really all about that question. And it does get impacted. So I'm moving, me in the sevens, I'm moving into a seven personal year. I'm under a seven pinnacle, and this one rebirth is going to kind of remind me of my spiritual self as a seven personal year hits a rebirth energy, I will probably up my game with spiritual practice. I don't know where that will take me, but I'm sure that new teachers will come into my life. I'll be called to learn new techniques. The last time I was in a seven personal year and it was a one universal year, I started Unity Ministerial School. And that was a very up my amp, spiritual life process. And it took 4 years. And so I know something new and wonderful in my spiritual growth is coming with this one universal year.
I let's talk about angels. I swear to God, when I started thinking about angels, I felt them
Yes.
around me,
Yes.
and I
That's how,
know that they've been guiding your teaching, your
yes.
Angel Up series. I was lucky enough to participate in your angelic ministry and your 33-day angelic
Yes.
ascension, which I believe you're doing again in February. Is that correct?
Well, in February, we're doing a 7 week angel course about the seven stones of ascension, the way angels lift us up through grief and loss and disappointment in the world, and all of the stones that are heavy that we have in our heart that we think are going to weigh us down. The angels use those stones to lift us up into a new way of viewing the world. So when we talk about the angels, my favorite thing, all we ever have to do is even just think of them, and we become aware of their loving, nurturing presence. They are always with us. They are always walking ahead of us, beside us, next to us. They know what's coming. They know when we're going to need extra help. They are the invisible go-to EMTs, you could say, of this earth world that are always there to love us and support us and help us. So they are definitely here as humanity tries to build this new cycle that starts this year. And the more of us who recognize their love, ask them, I go to bed almost every night going, angels love me, lift me, help me, heal me. And I'll just repeat it over and over as I'm falling asleep, knowing that they're going to renew me in whatever ways I need to be renewed before morning, and that they'll heal whatever needs to be healed in my body so that when I wake up in the morning and have work to do, they've already cleared the path to help me get it done. The angels are the best part of being a human on earth.
I was actually in the dumps last night. I wasn't feeling well, and I did exactly what you just said. And I woke up this morning feeling lighter, and I had some ideas of how to solve the problem I was working
Yes.
on. So
And that's
that's
that's you know my you're bringing up my favorite thing to do. Yesterday I had all these problems because it was Monday after the holidays. I had a million emails to answer, a million problems to solve, clients rescheduling on and on and on. And I finally just I put it all down and I said, Angels, solve these problems, please. Make it easier. And when I came back to it today, certain things had sorted themselves, and it wasn't going to be as hard of a process to go through and change that appointment, answer that person, blah, 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 blah. And the angels really can do that, but we have to let go. We have to say, angels, I'm putting this aside. You take care of it. You solve these problems. I'll come back to it later. I did that a lot when I was publishing. In 2025, I published 5 books, my 3 Angel Up books, the trilogy, and this updated workbook. And every single time there would be a tech glitch, at least one tech glitch, in uploading it to Amazon and everything. And I'd get frustrated at first, and then I'd finally just put it aside and go, Angels, solve this so that when I come back, I know what to do. And every single time an idea would pop in my head, well, why don't you try this? And then I would sit down and that would work. And I feel like the angels got all those books published for me in 2025.
wow. The angels and productivity. What a great pair. So do the angels work with numerology, or they
Oh,
really
yeah.
come in for support when we
Well,
really need it the most?
they know the tools that we pay attention to because they know who we are. They know each of us. And so my angels have always known I'm going to be paying attention to numbers. And, even way back in the 80s, if I was on a business trip and I went to check into a hotel, they would have the number on the door. The angels would be showing me, oh, here's the vibe of this business meeting. It's going to be an 888 or something, and I'd go, oh, now I'm kind of energetically prepared for what this meeting will be about. So they've always like shown me little signs all the time of what's coming, what's happening. And if you learn to pay attention to numbers, the angels will bring them to you at every turn, especially when you're trying to connect to your children in spirit or your loved ones in spirit. They'll always let help your departed use the electronics and everything that they can possibly access to show you those numbers to say, hey, I'm here, I'm with you.
All the angel numbers for a reason.
Mhm.
Let's talk about fear a little bit. Anybody who goes on LinkedIn these days, there's fear is rampant. How can you use numerology to help empower you, particularly when you need to be reborn with
Yeah.
your work or whatever else?
Well, all spiritual teachers will say there's two emotions, fear and love, and that is the ultimate truth here. And we get to choose. That's the great beauty. I get to choose if I'm going to be I, of course, I'm going to have fear. I'm human. But the minute I'm aware that I can, oh, I'm in such a place of fear. Let's see, what can I do? Well, I can love on a client. I can love on my cats. I can love on this beautiful day. What are the ways I can open my heart and send love, gratitude, because that lifts me out of fear. And when we're focused on career and work and money, those are the fear patterns that are so deeply dug into our human journey. But guess what? Those fear ideas are saying, you are a victim to this economy. You are a victim to job loss. Your soul is going, oh, well, then I must have agreed that this was the time I was going to start my own company or I was going to launch my own practice or go back to school. There's a reason these things are happening in the world. And LinkedIn is not the place where anybody will ever talk about that spiritual perspective, but it's where they need it the most. Because
That's the truth.
that fear is not going to attract what anybody wants. It's not going to attract the job. But the minute they go, and I'm not talking out of my just my ideas. I lived this in the 1999 crash of the .com because I was VP of content for a big natural health website, huge money thrown at me. And then five of those I was hired and they all went under in a year in 1999. And I was a single mom with a 4-year-old daughter, no one helping me, mortgage to pay. I was so alone in the world at that time. I was under a one pinnacle. There was literally nobody in the world coming to say, how can I help? And what I learned in that was that in that one pinnacle, I've got to start my own thing. And Spirit said that to me. Spirit said, how many years are you going to bang your head against the wall of trying to fit in to the normal world before you recognize your gift of intuition, numerology, spirituality, the thing you give away for free to all your friends? That's how you're supposed to make your living. And so in one weekend, I built the website, wrote my first book, started giving a free talk wherever I could. I had a 4-year-old daughter, and I wasn't going to let her lose her home. I wasn't going to let her life crumble because her dad had already moved out and I was her person. And because of her on my lap helping me get it done, I made it happen. That's what we can all do in our deepest, darkest fear. As soon as we let God and the angels and our guides show us the clear path forward, knock us on the head and go, why don't you try that thing you've always known you were good at? And then we begin going down the journey.
Is there, in these times, do you find that there's like one big question that everybody who works with you asks? Is there like one kind of help? This is the
Yeah.
area I need.
It's why is there so much hatred and conflict in the world today? I hear that almost daily with clients. And it just tugs at my heart because I understand exactly what they're talking about. And if each of us look out in our circle of friends and family, we see a lot of examples of relationships being torn apart from political ideas and political differences. So, this is our call to action. And the numbers tell us that everybody here is on their own path, doing the best they can, trying to fulfill their mission, and that we need to answer to our path. Think of it when we cross over and we have a soul review. It's not,
Sorry.
it's not our business what somebody else is doing on their path. What's our business when we do the soul review is how well we've walked through our journey and what has been the ripple effect of our actions, thoughts, and feelings. And that soul review reminds us that our path brings us to the right journey for us, and that's what we need to focus on.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. Technology is so interesting.
Seriously. I wanted to ask you, like, what would be one takeaway? So somebody who is maybe new to this or maybe not so new, and they're looking at their numbers and they're looking at their own personal year, their
Yeah.
life path, what this one universal, if there's one takeaway of what to
Yeah.
bring in to help you launch and take the
Yeah.
next steps, what would that be?
Forget about everything that's happened in the past 9 years and really step into your own grace, your own number. For example, really learn everything you can about the number of your own birth path. And as you learn that, it will give you the courage, go and study if your path is the number 4. Go and learn everything you can about the 4 and really say every action I take this year, every thought I think is going to be about how do I align more with that energy of the 4, which is about getting it done, working hard, being responsible and strong. So I'm not going to worry about what the world is doing. I'm going to adhere to that energy of my path. That will help everyone.
And bring some love into it. Speaking of
Absolutely.
love, I have to say this is a Jagger thing. I know it is. Just
Yes, that's
the
Jagger coming
movie,
in.
and I don't know if you heard it, but an ad started playing.
Oh
I
my
know.
God, Jagger. Jagger, you wanted to be included today. You are. We love you so much, Jagger.
Don't forget me. Don't forget me. And I guess just lastly, if we want to talk about what you have coming up, are you doing another numerology workshop? Because I know people are going to say they're going to want more. They're going to
Yeah,
want more.
I'll post one soon. It'll probably be maybe in June because I don't want to offer them constantly because people learn what they need to learn and then they have to go study and put it to use. So I'll offer another one in June, but offering this angel class in February, and it's really a good place whether you're a new student to the angel work or you're an advanced angel worker. This class will just light you up. The angel classes blow all of our minds. They always go in a whole other way than we expect, and I benefit from them as much as anybody. I'm not the teacher. The angels literally come in and teach us what we need to learn. So I hope people will sign up for that. And then I hope they'll check out my new numerology workbook, updated, and your Signs 101 book, and also my favorite angel book, my Angel Up trilogy. All
Have
right.
taken the last angelic ascension course. It really got me through a dark period and it really got me to a
Shifted
place
you.
of trust. So
Yeah.
I thank you for that and I highly recommend it.
And that's what it did to me too. And we can be as enlightened as we want to be here on earth, but when pain happens, we forget and we go into our pain, we go into our fear. That's part of the human journey. But the moment we open up to the meaning of the numbers, the angelic help that's available, we lift back up into our higher soul. That's how we navigate this earth. That's the only way to navigate this earth. Thank you so much, Amber. This has been so fun. We'll do it again, everybody. And next time it'll be an hour talking about Amber's new documentary and her books and all the amazing stuff she's doing with her beautiful son, Jagger, in spirit at her side.
This
Thank
has
you,
been
sweetheart.
great. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you. Bye bye.